Welcome back to Nozzle Grand Garage. Tonight we are out in the fuel shed here, and I have made a lot of changes out here. I've also had a lot of questions about how I've got my pumps set up as far as filling vehicles and stuff like that goes. So I wanted to go over that and just go over all these changes I've made and let you know what's coming. So let's get at it. First up, I want to go over my pump setup that I use for filling the vehicles up and everything else. First up is the pump itself. This is a Fill-Rite DEF pump. I've had it pumping oil for the better part of, I'd say, 8 years. Prior to that, we were using 5-gallon jugs and moving it by hand. But I snagged this dirt cheap from a buddy of mine. It's all stainless. It's got Viton seals in it because DEF is some corrosive stuff. And this thing handles the oil really well. Doesn't like straight oil, I discovered. It gets a little warm, but I've got some tricks for that. But yeah, so this connection here is a draw straw that goes all the way down to the bottom of our tote or bottom of our drum. Comes up, which is a quick disconnect too. So I can pull this handle and release this from the drum. Comes up to the pump itself, and then we come out here where it runs into a T. This side by the wall here goes out to the filter head, mounted outside, which feeds the hose and fuel nozzle. Then we come in here to another T. Now this is one of the changes I just made. Coming out of the bottom of this T, let's come down here. You up in here is this hose right here. It comes down and over to a valve right here, which then tees back in to the drum. This lets me pull from the bottom of the drum with the pump, recirculate, and dump back right into the top of the drum. I've got a valve here which lets me shut off. This is the outlet from the centrifuge, so it comes down through here. This will let me turn this off, so I can set full pressure to recirculate this drum just using the pump, and don't have to worry about backfilling the centrifuge. Now, you'll notice I've got several valves on here. If I shut these two valves off, one of my new changes, if those valves are off and no one's using the nozzle outside, open this valve up and it will pump the contents of this drum up, back over, up into our gravity drum, which now will make it a lot easier to do multiple passes, stuff like that, which after my testing, the little bit I've done so far, I'm going to be doing at least 2 passes on every batch I make from here on out. I think it's worth it, and it doesn't add that much time. It's very little work. Now that it's plumbed up like this, all I got to do is flip a couple valves, and I'll be able to pump the oil back up to the drum. Now, like I said before, this pump doesn't really care for straight oil, especially when it's cool out. But if I come out, and as soon as the batch gets done running, this drum's still going to be warm. The oil's coming out between 170 and 200 degrees from the centrifuge. So this drum's still going to be warm, the oil's still going to be thin. So right off the bat, flip a few valves and pump that hot oil back up into that drum, and it's ready to go for a second batch. Now here's my setup outside. Just a standard bulk tank particulate filter. It's only a 10 micron filter, just to catch any contaminants when I'm mixing gas or what have you. And just a standard fuel hose and fuel nozzle. Nothing special there. Now, this tube also comes up straight through here to this cap, which lets me add in my gasoline, diesel fuel, whatever I'm blending. I just use a 5-gallon container and a big funnel, And that's the simplest way I've found to do it so far. There's also a vent coming off of this and going to the outside. So any fumes, moisture, anything else that does make it to this drum does get vented outside. Now on to some of the changes we've made. The big changes anyways. You'll notice I got a hose coming off right here, which is coming off of a T out of the outlet of the centrifuge. And if you'll notice here, I've got this valve right after that T. So I can shut this off here, and none of the stuff going through the centrifuge will make it back into this drum. It will backflow and come out of this hose. So, at least that's the theory. I've got some testing to do on it and see if it works. But I've also added a P-trap, as has been suggested by several people. I added a drain as well to the P-trap, so after a while, if it gets sludgy, nasty, take this cap out. It's gonna make a little bit of a mess, but right now I don't have another valve to make it easy. But yeah, eventually I'll put a 90 on the bottom of this with a 3/4 inch ball valve and make it easy to drain and clean out. But yeah, this should catch all our moisture or our water vapor, because I get a lot of steam out of the vent of that drum, or at least I used to. So I've been told this will prevent that, and it will keep all the vapor in the centrifuge to be vented either out the vent hose out the top or out of the sludge drain, which will just end up in our sludge bucket that's down here. Now, up top, we've got a 5-gallon bucket here sitting right next to our main drum. This 5-gallon bucket has a valve on the bottom, and it comes across here and is teed into the supply on our centrifuge, which I've got, you know, the valves up here. That's nothing's changed there. But when we want to do some small batch testing, now all I have to do is keep these valves shut off and fill this bucket up right here. What that's gonna let me do is this bucket here will stay clean. The bulkhead fitting only protrudes through the bottom of the bucket about this much, so there's no room for sludge to build up in the bottom of the bucket. That's going to eliminate a lot of questions as far as where sludge and stuff that ends up in the centrifuge is coming from. And this will let me do testing a lot faster on different things. Also, another big plumbing change I'm planning on making here real soon is draw straws for all 3 of these totes, and valves all ran back to a central manifold feeding the pump, because right now I have to move this hose, the suction hose, to each tote whenever I want to pull from a different one. And as you can imagine, it makes a mess, and I'm kind of tired of that. So we'll be changing that too here before too long. We'll see. I've ordered in some 1 micron bag filters. So we are going to test out whether these filters do much good. They're the go-to for a lot of people, and I've had requests to put them up against the centrifuge just to see how much stuff is being missed. So that's going to be one of the first tests we do. I will just run a plain batch through the little bucket first, just to kind of flush any nastiness that may be in it from me putting all this stuff together. And then we'll be able to start doing some testing. With all that said, let's talk about some of the testing I've got planned. Like I was talking about with the bag filters, that's gonna be one of the first ones I do once I'm ready to go, which will hopefully be this weekend, but I'm not sure yet. But we'll see. So yeah, I want to do a filter test. I'm also going to do a heat versus no heat test to see if you can run this centrifuge without heating the oil at all. See if there's really any benefit to using the electricity to heat the oil up so hot. I'm also considering doing a no heat test with gasoline added to the mix already. I know a lot of people have talked about doing that, and I will not heat a mix with gasoline already in it. I think that's dangerous, and with over 3,000 gallons of flammable or combustible liquids out here now and next to the shed. I'm not going to risk it. So I will do a no heat test with gasoline and or diesel fuel added up here. I will be doing multiple pass tests to see just how worth it is to keep going. We did the 2-pass test already with a full batch, and I've had some questions about, well, what if we do 3 passes? Is it worth it to keep going? Is it worth it to do 4, 5, so on and so forth? So yeah, in the spare time, this will be a little bit later, we will do mass multi-pass test. And with this setup here now, running 4 or 5 gallons per hour, I'll be able to run a test in an hour, hour and a half, instead of it taking all day. And then I can just go right back at it, back-to-back testing, and get the information out there a little bit faster. Now, an interesting note, I did call WMO Designs today and talk to them about doing this P-trap setup before I plumbed it in. And oddly, they said they prefer that they're not done that way. They prefer to drain directly off the centrifuge with no trap or anything in them. They wouldn't give me a reason why. I know companies like US Filter Max, they've got several that, or heck, all of theirs may be set up for a P-trap and to be vented from the top of the housing. So I don't know their reasoning behind it, but I went on and did it because it's been suggested by quite a few people that it's a good way to go. So we're going to try it out. Worst case scenario, if something doesn't work out with it, I will pull it back off and run the hose right back to the centrifuge and just delete the drain altogether. Or delete the P-trap altogether. But yeah, so we've got a lot of testing to do in the very near future. And I think it's going to go a lot smoother and a lot faster doing everything this way. This does look convoluted, complicated, and it kind of is, but most of that is for the testing side. If I didn't have all the small batch stuff plumbed in, it would be very simple to just have the pump set up to return and refill the gravity drum for multiple passes. I mean, it just take a couple valves and a T and you're good to go. I've always had it set up to recirculate this tank, so anytime before we'd fill a vehicle up, I always let this recirculate for 4 or 5 minutes. Is that important? Is it? I don't know. Some people claim that the gasoline and stuff will never settle out of it. I've heard that it does. Either way, it's cheap insurance just to let it run a little bit. But yeah, I think that about covers it. Oh yeah, we did get some extra lighting out here instead of just using the little this little light here, which I'm going to add a little bit more lighting out here because now by the time I get home it's dark and this is going to be the only time I've got to work. So with that said, if you have any comments, questions, complaints, what have you, drop them in the comment section below. If you have any request for something or a different setup you want tested, a different method you want tested, just let me know and I will try to do it, as long as it's not going to break the bank, because you know I'm just an average guy and I'm not made of money, but yeah, I'll do what I can to test all this stuff for you guys, and I'm already set up to do it for the most part. But yeah, if you have different blends you want tested, if you want different flow rates tested, different temperatures tested, anything and everything, I'll try to do it. Just drop it in the comment section and we'll talk about it, get some details together, and I'll see about making a video on it. But yeah, with all that said, if you haven't already, please subscribe. We appreciate you watching.